All right, viewers, welcome to the Bronco Country Roundup. I'm Evan Sanford. Today I'm joined by Chris Van Sickle and Chase Bullerfield. Unfortunately, Carter Davis could not be with us today. We'll just leave it as it's had a bit of a family situation, so our condolences to Carter. Kevin Hyatt is also sick today, so you just get us three for this
Sorry.
reaction
Sorry.
Monday. Yeah, for this reaction Monday after our Georgia Southern win. It's nice to be 1-0 for the first time since I believe Utah State in 2020 when we came out slinging on the blue. That I remember that game. That the offense came out and looked really crisp that game. But that is the last time that we have gone 1-0 to start the season. So that's a nice change of pace.
That's crazy.
Right, right. I mean, we could always bring up 2021 UCF.
Yeah, that's all right. We're good.
I don't recall that one.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, to get things going, today, Chris and Carter actually got to attend the Spencer Danielson, Dirk Cutter, and Eric Chinander, I almost said podcast, press conference. Although I do think they could make a fire podcast. We will recap the Georgia Southern game, and then we will give you guys a preview of the Oregon game. Oh, and also I almost forgot we have a little analysis of Oregon's first matchup against Idaho, so we'll dig into that a little bit. But to get us started, Chris, you and Carter got to go to the presser. What is the atmosphere like at those things? Like, is it just kind of like businessy, or like we only ever get to see them talk? Like, is it kind of fun?
It is fun. It's a lot of fun. Something I'm new to, and I'm really enjoyed. I think Danielson can make a funeral a positive atmosphere. So, he shows up and it's just energy, man. He walks in and Patrick Walsh, the media guy, gives us a little briefing beforehand, and Spencer's yapping through that and talking, and it's awesome. I love it. A lot of energy. Today was good. Nothing huge. I did record it and post it to our channel. I'll give you a couple details, but I want y'all to go look at that. Give us a couple views. Smash that like button. Danielson, of course. Danielson, of course, was happy to be 1-0. He did mention, just like Evan brought up, that it's been a minute. That he felt like the players were adequately hydrated, and kind of like the Florida State game, that we were in better shape than the team that lives in the humidity. So that he shouted out the strength and conditioning staff for that. Probably the only
actually,
go ahead.
Yeah. You just stole one of my shout outs I didn't tell you guys about. I was so proud of the strength and conditioning staff. This is something I'm very passionate about. During my master's program, I did a research proposal on how to maintain hydration status under heat stress. And that was something for equipment bearing athletes under heat stress. And it's this whole big thing, like it's something I was very passionate about after, which is kind of funny. I was inspired by the 2017, I believe, Oregon Ducks, where Willie Taggart, his strength and conditioning coach, hospitalized a couple players with rhabdomyolysis because he was basically making them do special forces military drills in full pads in the Eugene summer, which that's really, really smart. But yeah, shout out to the strength and conditioning staff. Like, I love seeing that. Like, those guys are flying. We saw Genty cramp up for good reason, but like other than that, that's amazing. But anyways, that's kind of adjacent to my field, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And Spencer mentioned that exact cramp that Genty was just, he came up to him and he goes, "Coach, I'm cramping everywhere." And he just laughed about it. And I guess he was offered some applesauce afterwards to try and didn't want it. So do not buy Ash and Genty applesauce, apparently. Then
my dad's actually disappointed. They love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you talk about atmosphere. Dirk Cutter brings a certain atmosphere that's very different than Spencer Dantzlen. Cutter's a little grumpy even after a beautiful offensive performance. I know I would be scared to death to ask that man a question, because if you ask a stupid question, he's going to rip your head off. That's just a fact. But he came out and, of course, gushed about Ashton Genty. He was asked about Sire Gaines, and he said he played amazing, but he wasn't surprised by that. Talked about the blocking, and not just the offensive line, but tight ends and wide receivers as well. Especially on that run that Genty had where he cut it back. Caples, I think, kind of bowling balled two guys there. And then he kind of went into Oregon, and then Eric Chenander, he brought up that they started out really well and he thought communication was crisp, and then that it kind of broke down there for a little bit as they did get a little tired. But he thought they finished pretty decent. Talked about the 4 forced fumbles, which was the first time that's happened in a long time. You got to recover those. I know a couple of them bounced out of bounds, so you can really do about that. But he said if the ball's on the ground, it's their ball. So, but yeah, please go to our channel, check it out, and you will. I will say I noted on there, Dirk Cutter is kind of a low talker, if you will, and my audio wasn't perfect, so you might have to boost your volume up a little bit on that one. But that's all I got.
Good heads up. And yes, please check out the channel. As I said last week in our podcast, we're going to be focusing more on the interviews midweek. Unfortunately, we all have jobs. I don't even live in Idaho, so I can't go down there and do it myself. But when we can, we'll get down to the practice field, but that's going to be here and there, if at all. So check out the channel for those interviews and enjoy.
I put in my requests today for interviews. I put in Sire Gaines, Zion Washington, and Jaden Virgin Morgan. So we'll see if I get any of them.
All right. Well, hey, there we go. Viewers, is something to look forward to. Maybe.
We'll I'll find out soon, hopefully.
That's called a tease, boys. It's called a tease.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a firm maybe, right?
It is, yeah. I haven't been to that one yet, so knock on wood.
Oh, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Georgia Southern. That was a bit of a roller coaster there. It looked like we were going to run away with it, and then it became a bit of a barn burner. So kind of definitely an emotional roller coaster for me. It was not what we expected. Our score predictions, I don't have them off the top of my head. I think we all got pretty close on, or we were under what the Broncos would score, which is actually, that's nice to see. And we were definitely lower for Georgia Southern. But so we're going to break it down for you guys today. The good, the bad, the ugly, our own takes, observations, and just kind of general rehashings of the game. So actually, Chase, why don't you get us started with just some of your good observations?
Well, and I probably still in someone's thunder here because we didn't talk about this, but the offensive line, I mean, the big beefy boys were doing their job. And I think our boy Jay Tuss put a stat out there that Genty had 5.3 yards before contact average. Yeah. And that means he's getting halfway to a first down before he's even touched by a defender. Yeah. And that is 100% entirely on the offensive line. If you go back and look at some of those big runs, the holes were massive. You could have driven your Ford F-350 through the middle of those holes. So good. The O-line, and we kind of expected, there's a lot of experience there. Just a couple of young guys, but a lot of experience. And so seeing them, Genty's a stud. They grease him up before the games or something. I don't know. He can't be tackled, but it's a combination. Him plus the O-line and, the blocking tight ends in there. To me, that's what stood out. You don't get 6 touchdowns and 267 yards unless you got the big boys up there getting it done for you. Well,
we saw Hall Schmidt absolutely mauling some guys on the right side of that line. That was beautiful. And we have been like, I would like to think we are a very, very offensive line positive podcast. We love ourselves some line play on the Bronco Country Roundup.
Well, and if you guys are on Twitter, sorry to interrupt you. If you guys are on Twitter, go follow Mike Golick Jr. He's a former offensive lineman at Notre Dame, and he very technical in his expertise and knowledge of O-line, and he was praising Boise State's offensive line on Twitter today, I saw. So go check that out. He's got good stuff to say.
And shout out to Tim Keene, the way they have recruited and built that offensive line, bringing the guys in. I mean, we've got like, what is it? Hall Schmidt is a redshirt sophomore. Cage Casey is a is Cage Casey a true sophomore or
redshirt sophomore, I believe.
Redshirt sophomore.
I'm gonna Google it right now.
We've got some youngsters on the line that they have brought in, they've coached up, they've put on the weight. Again, shout out to the strength and conditioning staff, doing an amazing job. We got those guys out of Virginia Tech, by the way. Ben Hilgart, or at least I believe he came to us from Virginia Tech. They're doing a astoundingly good job beefing up that O-line, bringing back that Bronco tradition of having just an awesome, stout O-line up front and running the ball. I love it. But
AC is a redshirt sophomore. Redshirt sophomore.
Redshirt. Okay. I could go on for ages. Chris, go ahead. Give us your good.
Well, I did have the offense line as well, but I did have a couple other details that I wanted to highlight. In particular, I wanted to say two guys' names that we didn't get much love. Number 78, Tyler Kenneth. Ben Dooley appeared to be a little banged up. He did play some, but Tyler Kenneth played great at left guard. I thought that was super impressive. He's a transfer from Western Illinois. And he's a redshirt junior, if we want to get into that. So we got years here. And then number 72, Zach Holmes. He's a transfer from Oregon State. He also played a good game on the offensive line. So, dependable depth is so super important. So I wanted to give those two a quick shout out as well. Yeah, dependable depth. You should have to take a shot every time we say that.
There's a few good buzzwords, right?
Yeah, that's right. But some other goods. Cam Camper, super happy for this kid to come off some injuries and really stepped up. Led the team in yards, 99 yards, 4 receptions. I will also shout out Maddox Matson here. He put that deep ball to where it was basically just handed to Camper. That was a beautiful throw. But Cam Camper, loved what he did there. This wide receiver room is so deep. And then Zion Washington is a guy that I really was impressed with. It's not many people are going to be giving the defensive backs much love after this last game, but he had 3 pass breakups. One of them was pretty close to the interception. I thought he may have been able to get that, but I thought he played really well. He's a big physical guy. We didn't hear much coming out of fall camp about him, but I think he's going to have a big season. They rotate those safeties a lot, so they keep him fresh. But he played a lot, and I was super excited to see that. So,
one thing I always tell my kids when I coach is, if you're going to make a mistake, do it going 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
And Zion Washington, he did make a few mistakes, but he was 100% all effort all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
is one of those what do you call it, hustle error?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If you make a mistake, do it quick. So, and then, Sire Gaines, amazing. Guys, a stud. 12 carries, 116 yards, Mountain West Freshman of the Week. And I'm not even bringing up the best player on the team. Hopefully Evan will bring that up because somebody needs to talk about Ashton Genty, but if he doesn't.
Well, I figured it was obvious. So,
exactly.
Yes. Ashton Genty. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Take over.
6 touchdowns. I forget how many total yards. Video game numbers. Like
267 yards.
What? Say that again?
267 yards. That's insane.
That's disgusting.
He averaged a touchdown on 30% of his carries, by the way.
Insane.
Again, video game numbers from Ashton Genty. I that was just a joy to watch. Which sidebar to ESPNU, thank you for not showing us his first touchdown run. That was awesome. I really enjoyed their coverage of the University of Pittsburgh instead of the game. I learned a lot about a painting.
Beautiful campus. Beautiful campus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Beautiful city. Yeah, great city. They've got a nice park there. They really showcase that park.
My blood pressure was at unhealthy levels.
Yeah.
At that point. Almost.
Yes. But yeah, Ashton Jeanty, he is the heart and soul of that offense, heart and soul of the team, the Broncos. They named a snowplow after him for a reason. Like it's so obvious that we almost didn't cover it. Yep. Because Ashton is just I hope he's the next Seahawks running back. No, that's all I'm getting.
Going to Dallas. Going to Dallas. I'll fight you.
Boise State South, right?
Yeah.
So just before we get to some of the bad, the ugly, just wanted to add a little tidbit on the offensive line. There was not a single sack given up. That was beautiful.
Yep.
Then another thing that we saw is you both kind of alluded to it, is just I want to reiterate or make it more of a focal point. It's the dependable depth on both sides of the ball. You saw us rotating guys out there and without a huge drop off. I just noticed you guys
had to do
it. Oh geez, I lost my train of thought.
Oh crap! I gotta do it again.
They were rotating guys in. We weren't cramping up, and you didn't see a drop off until they just kept going on both sides of the ball for the most part. Now, we will obviously highlight the defensive struggles, and we're going to do it here in just a minute. I came up with my own category, and we kind of talked about this beforehand, is I'm going to call it the intermediate, and where I really want to shout out Maddox Madsen, because first off, there's some people online who are just, they're never going to be happy. And you know what? Just, they can go yell and scream into the void and just kind of, if we don't get clicks and views from them on this podcast, I will not be sad. Anyway, that is feel free to just we're going to be honest and critique his play. But if you're just going to yell and scream about a 20-year-old kid, yeah, we don't need it.
No.
Yeah. So Maddox Madsen, he came out. It definitely looked like this was week one. Came out a little uneven. My guess is based on every other quarterback that I got to watch play this week on TV is came out a little shaky. That first game jitters. His timing was a little bit off. Some of his balls were up just a little wobbly. And then once he threw that first interception, which, as Chase, you kind of alluded to, that wide receiver, whoever he was trying to hit, was open. He just hit it late in the route, and the linebacker was right there.
When you go over the middle, you can't go late. Can't be late.
Yeah, he was late. But after that interception, you saw him kind of settle in and take his game up to the next level. He managed the offense really well. He made some beautiful throws, some darts. He hit some deep passes. Those short to mid-range passes were very efficient, crisp. I would still critique a little arm strength there, but you know what? He's not perfect. He managed the offense very, very efficiently and very well after the interception, and he looked like just an effective quarterback for us. So, I'd call it the intermediate. If you guys have anything else to add.
No, I think he did exactly what he needed to. You're right. He came out a little sloppy, a little behind, a little slow on his reads, and then he just took over. And I loved that he didn't stare down his receivers. If it wasn't open, he moved on to the next one. The play that I point out was the third down conversion to Ben Ford. Ben Ford was his fourth read. You could just see him progressing. And that's not something Boise State's had a lot in a quarterback in a while. Since Brett Rippon maybe is somebody who will really sit back and go through his reads. So I loved it. I love Max Madsen personally. I think Mad Dog's great. I think he can lead this team to great stuff. I love Malachi Nelson as well. And I think
Yeah.
we'll get a shot as well. But we all just need to take a step back, enjoy Maddox for now. But that's all I got.
Yeah, I felt the same way about Brett Rippon. I think we all ripped into him a little bit, like, why is he doing this? I think of that New Mexico game. I was at that game. That was brutal. Was like freshman or sophomore year, and
Yeah.
it was that season I decided I just got to sit back and enjoy what I can. If I'm too worried about the negative aspects of things, it's just not. Speaking of unhealthy blood pressure and things, that's where that comes in.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, again, there you take the good with the bad, like any college quarterback, and he improved as the game got. I don't know what else you want from him. If you're demanding perfection, then you're not going to find it at this level. You should probably just stick with the NFL. But actually, Chris, you before I move on, there's one really good point, and actually, if we could look it up, I don't have the number in front of me, but there was a stat posted that Boise State or Madsen targeted and completed passes to, I think it's 5 or 6 different receivers. It was some really high number. A lot of guys got touches. They spread the ball out really well against Georgia Southern. And that goes back to what you said. He was going through his progressions and he was quick. I think I saw something. He was averaging about 2.5 seconds until he got rid of the ball. That is a really nice, that is good. It's quick release, getting out there. It's not standing and just waiting to get hit. Yep. So that excellent game management. If he has to hit the check down, so be it. Live to fight another down. Yeah. That's what's going to keep you in games in college.
When your check down's Ashton Genty, you feel pretty good about it. So
that too. All right. Anyways, we've enough with this positivity. let's get to the bad. Go ahead, Chase. If you want to get us started off with what's some of the bad.
Okay, I'm going to preface this with a little caveat here. This is me one game into Eric Chenander's role as defensive coordinator. Okay, so don't buy my head off. One game. We don't have any averages yet because it's only been one game with him. But he was at Nebraska. He was the defensive coordinator from 2018 to 2022. Scott Frost brought him on as defensive coordinator. Wasn't great, I will say. But for the 5 years he was there, his teams gave up 27.8 points a game and 397.76 yards a game they allowed. Okay, so to put that in perspective, in the 3 seasons Boise State played in the Fiesta Bowl, only gave up 17 points in 2006, only gave up 12 points in 2010. But in 2014, when Grant Hedrick came in and rescued us, we did give up 26 points a game. So if Boise State is eyeballing a spot in the playoff, we got to, again, early in the season, but those numbers got to be brought down for Boise State. You can't give up 461 yards and 45 points per game if you expect to be able to do anything in the college playoff. 322 passing yards given up, 139 rushing yards given up to Georgia Southern, and just kind of felt off. We talked about Maddox Madsen being off a little bit in the first half. It just felt our defense was a little off, a step slow. Whether that's Chenander or not, I don't know, but the numbers from his time in Nebraska, not good. So yeah, see what happens going forward.
Yeah, no, personally, I'm hoping that this is kind of like Nick Saban's like rehab for coordinators. I'm hoping that Boise State can kind of be that like rehab for fired coordinators. So when we brought on Chenander for, I think he was defensive line coach before he became DC. Yeah. I was like, okay, like learn from the mistakes, build them back up, and be that kind of that rehab spot for coordinators. So hopefully it improves. Sounds like he is more than well aware of the problems. So
well, and I will say that in the last 10 seasons, the highest average Boise State's given up in points per game was the COVID year 2020, and it was 27.14 points, which is still lower than what Chenander's Nebraska defenses gave up. So again, a little perspective on some of the numbers.
Now I'm actually curious. So it felt like the bulk of their yards, the bulk of their damage was done at the very end of the second quarter and throughout the third quarter. If you put it, we started out very nice, very well. Or we started off very good on defense in the first quarter, held them to 9 points almost up till half. And then, like, well, I'm going to steal something. The game management aspect kind of came into play, some questionable decisions, and then a few penalties in there. It felt like we're a little bit closer to holding them to a more that 27 points.
It's crazy. That's a fine line, right? Very fine line there for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, so I don't know. Either way, it's not good.
Yeah.
But Chris, go ahead. What were your bads?
Yeah, so I wouldn't, maybe don't say bad. I would maybe say disappointed. All off season, we've heard, special teams. Stacey Collins is going to come in and really pump up these special teams, and in particular the returns. And we've seen, Ashton Genty's going to be back there. Latrell Caples is going to be back there. Both listed on the depth chart. And then you look back, and no offense to number 27, Caden Chan, but you were not what I expected back there. And he just kept calling fair catches on the return game. And that's just a little odd to me. It doesn't scream that they have a lot of confidence in their return game. And maybe it's gamesmanship. They don't want to show off too much. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And then they gave up Jonah Dahlm was making a shoestring tackle from giving up a kickoff return for a touchdown. So just disappointed in the special teams. I'm confident that they will pick that up. And then Evan, you'd talked about the end of the half. Spencer Youngson talks about the middle eight, the last four of the second quarter and the first four of the third quarter. And he said today in his presser, not to give too much away, but you can lose games that way. And they nearly did.
You see.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the middle eight was not very good this game. So they'll need to improve on that. But the special teams kind of disappointed me. Obviously, Jonah Dalmas was great. Ferguson Reynolds only punted once and was great, but the return game and kickoff coverage was a little disappointing to me.
Yeah, outside of that, like almost returned for a touchdown, it felt unremarkable compared to what the buildup was. And I really am not trying to like insult that. Hopefully they're just like trying to play real vanilla.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's what they're trying to do. So, but I guess as long if you're going to be unremarkable, do it in a manner that is like you're not giving up points. So at least just like go through the routine, fair catch, take it to the 25. Oh, I'd rather have the unremarkable than,
right,
disastrous.
And that's why I say it's not necessarily bad, but when you've heard all off season, these guys are going to be so much better. It's just disappointing, but
no. I guess the only thing I had to add to the bad that you guys haven't alluded to already is the penalties. And I guess we kind of talked about that already. Those were like, I mean, on offense, I think we had a couple holding calls that didn't really make that much of a difference, but on defense, that kind of broke us. That's where the wheels kind of fell off there. Like we're going to get off the field, then like roughing the passer call, which I thought that was a very ticky-tack call. But what do I know? I sit in an armchair.
The offensive PI was kind of bizarre there too. That one caught me off guard.
Oh, that's right.
That was weird. I didn't get that one. But
yeah,
you're right. Yeah, absolutely, Evan. Penalties were kind of rough.
That's that. I mean, there's a couple in there that were like hustle mistakes. There's some mental errors that's got to be cleaned up. So, all right. So let's go ahead to the ugly. I think we've already kind of gotten to it in the bad a little bit already, but is there any like really ugly things?
I will bring up, and like I said, I kind of went down the stats rabbit hole today. Georgia Southern converted 63% third down conversion rate on Saturday. not good.
Get off the field, man. It was ugly.
Yeah. So some of them were 3rd and long, and it was just like you just kind of felt like that over the last couple of years. You're just like, well, 3rd and long, how are they going to convert it now?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that inevitable feeling. So
that it always frustrates me, like on 3rd and long, where like I don't know what the scheme is called, but you see us give their receivers a like 10, 15 yards of cushion, and it's like, well, you're giving them that much space. You're almost like kind of you're living on the edge there.
Yeah.
So it's like if we're gonna give it up, I'd at least rather see us play more in our base defense and give it up just because they beat us rather than we out schemed ourselves.
Got to be someone making a great play, not us just
letting it happen.
Letting it happen.
Yeah.
Right. There were so many times where it just felt like it's like, okay, like we're just gonna give them the ball and meet them at the 20.
Yeah.
That's kind of how
pretty much
they nickeled and dimed us down the field, which is like, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but that's kind of what I was alluding to in the Georgia Southern offensive preview. They didn't push the ball down the field that often. It was really those short to mid quick routes and sprinkle in the run game. They actually sprinkled in a little like read option attack in there, which we did not handle well. Shout out to French, their quarterback. He played well.
Yeah, he was good.
He's got some
decisions, scrambled when he needed to, got some tough yardage. Yeah, he was impressive.
Yeah, we didn't spy the quarterback. We didn't. Yeah, it was. And I've got one point that I'm just holding on to, but Chris, I'll let you go first. What's your ugly?
Well, unfortunately, it's the same thing that was ugly last year, and that's some of the defensive backs play. In particular, I wasn't terribly impressed with our new corners. Each of them had good moments. I'll absolutely give them that, especially Banks. I really thought Banks actually made a couple nice plays, but I've never seen corners just not look back and try to read the ball or play the ball at all. And you're going to get a PI call every time. I'm not a defensive backs coach. I don't know the technique. So I'm going to trust that that's fixed and they're doing the right thing. But so many times the ball's just flying over their head and they're just trying to read their eyes, and it's not going to work. So yeah, unfortunately it's pass coverage again. And I'm Chenander today in the press conference did say that all these things are fixable, and that's a positive. I'm hopeful that these things can get fixed. Like we said earlier, it just seemed like they were just a step short. In particular, Ty Benefield's whiff right before half at that ball.
Yeah.
He went for the interception, and that's fine. I get that. But if you just stick your hand out and bat that down, they're kicking a field goal instead of getting a touchdown right before half. And that really
PBU's go in the stat book too.
Yep. Exactly. So unfortunately, that's what I got for uglies, the defensive backs play. So hopefully it'll get better.
I've got kind of a interesting way of putting ugly, I guess, in this. It's ugly because it's the lack of blitzing. Because when we blitzed, we made them look so remarkably mediocre. And then just the refusal to dial up pressure. Now, I'm not going to advocate that we like blitz on every single down. That would be stupid. But you see something that works and then refuse to at least like adjust to sprinkle that in a little bit more, try and get on some timely passing down or obvious passing downs, like send some pressure. Because again, we made them look so remarkably mediocre. So my ugly is not choosing to do what was working or what was available to you, instead just letting them attack nickel and dime their whole way down the field throughout the second or the end of the second quarter, the third quarter, and much of the fourth. That utterly killed me. My blood pressure was going up a little bit over that, because again, it was it's a refusal to accept what is working for you and what is not. So I was banging my head over that. But anyways, going back, we'll kind of put a bow on the Georgia Southern game with a little bit more positivity. 1-0.
Yes, that's
1-0. A win is
1-0.
1-0. A win is a win is a win, and it's the also for all intents and purposes sounds like the people of is it Jonesboro or Statesboro?
Statesboro.
Oh, well, anyway, I got that wrong. Anyways, the good people of Statesboro were really good hosts to the fans who did travel. So I expect Bronco Nation to treat their fans just as well, show them just as much hospitality when they come up here in whatever year that is.
27, I think. 2027.
In 27?
I believe so.
Yeah. So they showed us some good hospitality. So again, Bronco Nation, open your arms to those fans when they come up. But moving on, we have a big game against Oregon, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure all of us picked us to lose this game. So
yeah,
we're starting off on a great note already.
It's called the reverse jinx. It's called the reverse jinx.
Yeah.
So the Oregon Ducks, their head coach is Dan Lanning, as we all know, the former defensive coordinator at Georgia. Offensive coordinator Will Stein, he's the former OC at UTSA. He joined Lanning's staff in 22 when Lanning got the head coaching gig. And what's I mean, Bronco Nation, do you recall a couple of years ago when UTSA was making a run at the not the CFP, but the New Year's Six? Yeah, that was Will Stein. So he is a very capable, very good offensive coordinator. And then their defensive coordinator is a name that could ring a bell. His name is Tosh Lapoy. I hope I'm saying that right. He's got kind of a long history. His Wikipedia page is a very interesting read. But I have one fun fact, because I mean, I wrote a whole page on him. Like, if you want an interesting read, seriously, go to his Wikipedia page. So his fun fact is that he was suspended in 2010 when he was a member of the Cal staff. He instructed a player to fake an injury in a game that was against the Chip Kelly Oregon Ducks. So he against his now team, he instructed a player to fake an injury to get the clock to stop and give them a little breather there, or a little competitive advantage, I guess. For use of a better word. And so I don't know how many games he got for that, but he was suspended. So kind of a fun fact there. So for today, Chase has the offense. I've got the defense, and then we will give our predictions of the game. I believe Chase also went down the stat rabbit hole one more time.
It did. So this is Lanning's third season, and obviously Stein's third season at Oregon. And over the last 15, 20 years, Oregon has just scored a ton of points. That's kind of been their thing under Chip Kelly. That's what they did. You know, spread it out, throw the ball, some really interesting, unique plays and play designs. In 2022, they averaged 38 points a game, Oregon did. Last season, they averaged 44 points a game. Okay. And 2022, 500 yards a game. Last year, 531 yards a game. So, I mean, growing. They get Dylan Gabriel transferred in there. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate. Against Idaho on Saturday, 380 passing yards. Okay, they only scored 24 points.
Chase, let me interrupt you real quick because I forgot we were going to do the Oregon-Idaho game. So how about cover the offense, and then Chris, give us your analysis of that game, and then I'll go. So Chase, go ahead, finish with the offense.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel threw the ball 49 times. That's a lot of arm motion there. Completed 40 of them, 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. The big dude he threw both touchdowns to, not big, but senior Tez Johnson, wide receiver. Only 5'10", 165, but that dude can fly. He was moving down the field, caught both touchdown passes. Senior tight end Terrence Ferguson had 7 catches for 87 yards. Big dude. He's a load to bring down. Running the running game, not phenomenal, right? They don't have an Ashton Genty, obviously. But junior Jordan James had 15 carries for 95 yards and a score. And Noah Whittingham is the other guy, 14 carries for 33 yards. So again, they're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to use the running game to kind of mix things up a little bit and keep the defense honest. And I do want to shout out Idaho native Kenyon Sadiq on Oregon's. I moved him to tight end this year. I think he was a receiver, but he's a kid from Skyline High School in Idaho Falls. He was very interested in Boise State and ended up choosing Oregon. 6'3", 245. They use him. They'll hand him the ball off and end arounds, throw it to him a little bit. So our secondary is going to have to be ready to go, and we're going to have to generate a pass rush for sure.
All right. Well, Chris, I owe you an apology for skipping over you in your segment there. Yeah, what can I say? I get a little ahead of myself on these things. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead? It'll be a nice little break. Give us your analysis of their first game against Idaho.
Yeah, no problem, Evan. Idaho kept this game quite a bit closer than a lot of people expected. I don't know what the line was on that game, but I bet it was a lot more than 10 points that they ended up winning by. It's hard to give a lot of credit to the Vandals. Growing up as a Boise State fan, so it's going to sting a little bit, exactly. But they played hard. They played their hearts out. Definitely did not have enough firepower there. The score was 24-14, I should mention. Both of the touchdowns Vandals scored were on trick plays, gadget plays, which is fine. Obviously Boise State, we love that stuff, but really couldn't match up physically. From my point of view, Oregon really kept it pretty basic. I don't know if they didn't want to show too much. Almost no downfield passing. Everything was short. Very few trick plays. They do a lot of screens. But overall, it looked more like a scrimmage, like a spring game. But credit where credit's due. The Vandals played hard. Oregon's offense just seemed to stall out every once in a while. The first game of the season, they'll get it figured out, hopefully in a couple weeks, not this week. And but yes, like Chase said, Dylan Gabriel, 41 of 49. That's a lot of passing, man. So gonna need to get some pass rush for sure. They did hold Idaho's quarterback to 11 of 25 passing with a couple interceptions. So they're no slouch on defense either. And I believe Evan will get into that.
Which I will, yeah. And yeah, I hate to say it, but shout out to the Vandals. That was a very good showing. For what it's worth, I mean, I'm not an Idahoan. I lived out there for 11 years. I never considered it a rivalry. They're just another in-state team. And then, you get to the longer I was there, I was like, oh, okay, this is like a Hatfield McCoy blood feud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, their head coach Eck, I find him so annoying, but he's a good coach. I'll give it to him. But I find him just so annoying.
Yeah. It's you need a good rivalry. If they were, given how toxic that is, at least online, I would say let's maybe not schedule them until the temperature cools off a little bit. But you'd love to have that. What is it? The Governor's, not the Governor's Cup, the Governor's Trophy game.
Mm-hmm.
You'd love to see that again, but
not really.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't.
Yeah. See, here's the difference between a local and someone who is not a local. I still don't fully understand it.
I have no interest in playing Idaho ever again, but that's just me.
I'm with you. No, hard pass.
No reason.
Yeah. As I said, just let the temperature cool off a little bit, and then maybe. It's got to be on the blue. None of this. We're not going to the Kibbe.
No, don't ever go back up to that tin can ever again.
No, it is a meme for a reason. Anyways, so the Oregon Ducks, they run a mint defensive scheme. Now, what the heck is that? To be honest, I did until I researched this, I didn't fully understand it. So I had to do quite a bit of digging, and I hope that I am delivering you viewers some good factual information on this because it took quite a bit of research. So it's kind of like a 3-3 defense where you have 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, but you've still at the end, you've got kind of that hybrid stand-up defensive end, kind of like what Boise State runs. Now, according to some, or for in some other schemes, that could be an inside linebacker or just another kind of hybrid defensive end. Oregon State uses the hybrid defensive end. So they have that quasi 4-3. Again, it's a bit of a hybrid. Now, the whole point of the 3-3 mint is to try and counter the spread offense. Now, the spread offense is everyone and their mother in college is running a spread. So it was developed to counter that and to try and shut down those passing attacks. It does sacrifice a little bit in the run game. And that does kind of bode well for Boise State, except for the fact that, again, the run defense was a glaring weakness last year that they went out and they adjusted or they fixed in the offseason. They brought in some transfer guys. They stacked that defensive line. So I wouldn't bank on that being a weakness again. Another thing that was a weakness for the Ducks defense was the secondary. Now they got how many interceptions against Idaho?
2.
Was it 2? 2? So again, I wouldn't count on that being a weakness again because they went and addressed it. That's the word I was looking for. They went and addressed it in the offseason. So skipping forward, their defensive line is stout. Everyone weighs over 270 pounds on that defensive line, including that kind of hybrid stand-up defensive end that I was talking about. Their line is going to be Jordan Birch, Jamari Caldwell, Derek Harmon, and then, oh boy, here we go. Mateo, Uagalele.
Uyangalele.
There you go.
Oh boy. So Mateo he's that hybrid position. Their nose tackle is going to be Caldwell. Defensive tackle is Harmon. Defensive end is Birch. And those guys are studs. They are absolute just maulers. Their linebacking core, Jeffrey Bassa, he is, as far as I'm aware, he is the star of that unit. They also saw, actually, quite a bit of action from Bryce Betcher. I think I butchered that name, but he was very active against Idaho. Then they have Tatum. Oh no, Tody.
You're doing your best, Evan. We appreciate
I practiced these names. Oh no, it's all gone wrong.
Phonetic pronunciation guide.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, so Bassa is the name to remember. He wears number 2. Now he only had 1 tackle that I could see against Idaho, but he is considered the captain, the star of that unit. Defensive backs, Kobe Savage, Tyler Turner. Now it's worth noting that strong safety Tyler Turner, he played the first half and he recorded 3 tackles. He had a very good half, I believe. Did he also have the INT? Oh, that was their nickel corner. But in the second half, they swapped him out for their starter, Tysheen Johnson. It's kind of interesting. They did not disclose why Johnson did not play, or at least they did not disclose that I saw why he did not play in the first half. Typically, when you see guys being held for a half, I'm not going to try and read between the lines too much here, but maybe there's like some kind of conduct thing. I don't know. Maybe a team thing. So they haven't made any official statement. So take everything I say about that with a very big grain of salt. Then at the corner position, you've got Jabbar Muhammad and Dante Manning. And then their nickel is Brandon Johnson. He had the interception. Those guys, again, that it was a weakness last year. So, they brought some of these guys are transfers, and they looked good against Idaho. They are fast, they're tall, and frankly, they're talented. We are up against it in the pass game. Now, it's a good thing our wide receivers are, well, probably up to the task. We're going to lean on our run game against that defense, and we're going to find out. Chris alluded to the fact that they were very, very vanilla. And on defense, they didn't do anything exotic against Idaho either. So, again, we don't know what we don't know, but that is a talented bunch, and it's all designed to shut down the pass attack. We'll see about the run. That's the strength of Boise State defense. So, without further ado, guys, this is going to be the hard part. Make your score predictions.
Go ahead, Chase.
Oh, all right. This is tough. I'm going to go 42-28 Oregon.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more along the lines of 45-34 Oregon. I think we keep it close, and at the end, they extend the lead a little bit. But I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if Boise State, if they truly were being at least on offense and defense as vanilla as we think they were, then it could be closer. But if they show us a similar product to what we saw against Georgia Southern, 58-30 Oregon. Again, if they adapt, if they make those changes, then I think it could be 42-30 Oregon.
Yeah. If they don't get a pass rush and let Dylan Gabriel sit back there, they are going to get picked apart.
Yeah. Now, I guess one thing that we haven't talked about is, yes, we have faced Dylan Gabriel before.
Yeah.
We have made him look mediocre before. But he has faced us before. He has beaten us before.
Yeah.
So it cuts both ways. Yeah. Different team, different time. Whole lot more talent than he had at UCF, arguably more talent than he had at Oklahoma. He is a talented quarterback. Don't count on him, or don't count on us having the scouting report on him. There's simply too much talent there.
Eric Chenandro was asked about that today at the press conference, and he's been playing. Gabriel's been playing quarterback for 6 years now, and he goes, it's almost comparable to facing an NFL quarterback. I mean, he just has seen so much and knows so much. So it's going to be tough. We're going to have to get him off the spot and pressure him.
I do want to kind of end my comments here on a positive note. Boise State is 3-0 against Oregon.
Oh.
First ever Power 5, it was Power 5 back then, true road win was 2008 at Oregon.
That game at Autzen with Kellen Moore was amazing. I love it.
So
let's see if I can find a positive to end on. Well, I mean, I'm going to stick with their defensive structure being geared more towards stopping the pass than it is the run. They addressed that need in the offseason, but they're facing arguably the best running back in the country with a ridiculously good offensive line. And we ran the ball effectively against an elite Washington team last year in game 1. So there is hope. We should move the ball. If we can minimize the mistakes, we can keep this close. They have too much talent for me to predict a win. But I guess I can end with something kind of fun. I brought it up last week. If we beat Oregon, then I owe my wife a massage every single week of football season.
You got a lot on the line. Anyways, Evan, come on, man. You got to get those brownie points.
No.
Although,
no.
My wife, don't get any ideas.
It's a good bet to lose.
No. Well, anyways, Bronco, this has been the Bronco Country Roundup. Bronco Nation, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and all the nice comments and feedback that you have given us. Really does mean quite a bit. So please leave us your score prediction in the comments section below. Tell us what you think we got wrong, what we got right, and we'll see you next week. Good night.